Hi, boys and girls. Today we are going to review for our mid-module quiz that's going to take place tomorrow. So hopefully by now you've tried a couple of problems on your own and you're looking just for some assistance. So feel free to skip over the question if you know you have a good understanding of it and you can just check your answer. However, if you're not really sure, feel free to watch me do the problem and hopefully answer your questions. So let's get started. Problem number 1 asks you to fill in the chart, and you're going to see some expressions. So we have either words in the first column, the expression numerical in the second column, or the third column is actually the value, so how much it's worth. Problem A is done for you. It gives you the words 30 times the sum of 15 and 25, and then gives you the expression where they have 15 and 25 in parentheses and then multiplied by 30. And then the value they solve by adding 15 and 25 together to get 40 and then multiplied by 30. 3 times 4 is 12 times 2 more groups of 10. Now let's look at problem B. It says divide the difference between 2,400 and 900 by 5. So I know where it says the difference between, I'm going to have to put that in parentheses. So I'm going to say 2,400 minus 900, and then I'm going to divide it by 5. And my writing is so big that it's not in the box, and it really should be. So first, I'm always going to think about my order of operations. I'm going to subtract 2,400 from 900. And you might have to do this on the side of your paper, a little scratch work, and that's 1,500. And now I'm going to divide that by 5. That's the last step. If I think about 15 and 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 0 times. And the last 0 times. So my answer is actually 300 for the value. Let's do C. It says the sum of 6 12s and 11 12s. Well, that word, the sum of, I know they're talking about addition, but let's think about what 6 12s and 11 12s means. Well, 6 12 is not just 6 1 2. It's actually saying it's multiplying. So I'm going to put in parentheses 6 times 12, and then I'm going to add it because it wants the sum of 11 times 12. Oops, 11 times 12. So that's my expression. Now to solve it, I'm always going to think about what's inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to do 6 times 12 first. 6 times 12 is 72 plus 11 times 12. 11 times 12 is 132. Add those together and I get a final answer of 204. So that's the value for number C. Let's try a couple more. Again, there are 3 columns. So the first column is words, the second is the expression, and the last is the value. So don't get confused because the labels aren't there, but you should be able to see it on your paper. So D says 10 times the sum of 13 and 7. Well, again, I'm seeing a couple of operation words. 10 times means I'm taking 10 and multiplying it by the sum of 13 and 7. Well, the sum of really tells me that I have to combine 13 and 7 first. So you can write it like this, or you could even flip it around so it could say 13 plus 7 times 10. Doesn't really matter. Either way is going to get you the same answer. Now to solve for the value, I'm always going to think about what's inside those parentheses first. So 13 plus 7 gives me 20. So that's inside the parentheses. Now I'm going to multiply 20 times 10. 20 times 10 gets me a final answer value of 200. Awesome. All right, E and F are a little bit different because they give us the expression this time, and now we need to write it in words. So it's going to be a little bit different. So if we look at the expression for 20 times, and then inside the parentheses, 240 plus 65, we really need to think about what it's asking us to do first. So I'm going to say, inside the parentheses is 240 and 65. So I'm going to say the sum of 240 and 65. So that tells my reader that it's going to be addition. And now to say to my reader that I have to multiply it, I'm going to say times 20. So that's going to be the word portion. You could also flip it around and say 20 times the sum of 240 and 65. Either way works. Now let's go to the last column and find the value, find the actual product, and solve this problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is look inside those parentheses and add 240 plus 65, which gets me 305. So I'm going to take what's inside the parentheses and write 305, and now I have to multiply it by 20. This is one that I might have to set up on the side of my paper to do a little scratch work, but if you multiplied it out, you should get 6,100 as a final value for number E. All right, last but not least is F. So again, it gives you the expression and you have to write it in words. So we're going to do this one again, thinking of what we're asking to do first. So I'm thinking inside those parentheses, and really the parentheses are saying to add. So I'm going to say the sum of 670 and 300. Let's spell and right. And then the last thing I have to do is multiply by 13. So I'm going to say times 13. And that's going to be my word portion. Let me move this around so it's in the right box. Move it down a little bit. There we go. So that's my word portion, the sum of 670 and 300. Oops, I have 79, don't I? So 670. Did anyone catch that? If you did, nice job. Now let's do the word portion, or the value portion. So I need to actually solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do, thinking of order of operations, is to add what's inside those parentheses. So 670 plus 300. Again, you might need to do this on the side. A little scratch work is 970. Now I'm going to multiply it by 13. Again, set it up at the side, multiply it out, and hopefully you get a final answer of 12,610. That one was kind of a toughy one. Hopefully you persevered through. Really nice job. All right, if you flip your packet over, question number 2 says solve. Use words, numbers, or pictures to explain how answers to part A and B are related. Well, first, if I look at A, I can see that it's 25 times 40. I can see that B has 2 5/10 times 40. Well, I know already there's a big difference between my 25 and my 2 5/10. So I can write down that question A has no decimal and is a whole number. Question B has a decimal. So the answer to question B will be smaller than A. Now let's prove that that's true by actually solving it. So I'm going to move my words down here so I have a little room to work. So now let's multiply out 25 times 40. Well, I know starting with my ones place, 0 times 5 is 0, and 0 times 2 is 0. Moving on to my tens place, crossing off my ones place, I'm going to multiply by 4. 4 times 5 is 20, carry my 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 more, 9, 10. So I have 1,000 for my answer for part A. Now let's look at B. Think, it's really going to be the same numbers that I'm using, isn't it? But really at the end, I have to think I'm multiplying by tenths. So that's really going to be a factor that my answer is going to be different than A. So 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. Adding on my place marker because I'm moving over to my tens place. 4 times 5 is 20, carry my 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 more, 9, 10. So again, I have 1,000, but guess what I need to remember? It's times a tens place, so I need to bring over my decimal 1 place. So think my answer to B is 100. You could even put 100.0. So I've just shown using words and numbers to help explain how my answers are different but related. All right, let's look at question number 3. For a sleepover, Joelle's mom bought 23 sandwiches for $3.74 each and 38 brownies for $1.13 each. How much did Joelle's mom spend in all? Well, this problem looks like it's a 2-part question, doesn't it? So first, if you haven't done this on your own, see if you can try this first, and then once you're done, check your answers in with me. Just pause the video right now, try it on your own, and see how well you did without us to help you out. If you didn't end up pausing, you're still listening, let's see if we can solve this problem together. If you did pause, welcome back. Here, we're first going to think about the sandwiches. Whoops, the sandwiches that she bought. $23, or excuse me, 23 sandwiches for $3.74. So I have to find out how much she spent on just the sandwiches. So to do that, I'm going to multiply by 23. So $3.74 times 23. And then I'm going to think about the brownies. It says she bought 38 brownies for $1.13 each. So $1.13 times 38. So let's multiply those. First, let's start with the sandwiches. So $3.74 times 23. 4 times 3 is 12, carry my 1. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 more is 22, carry my 2. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 more is 11. So that's my first partial product. Now I'm moving over to the ones place. I'll cross off any regrouping and start from the tens place. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 7 is 14, carry my 1. And 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now if I add them all up, I should get a final total of 2. So 8,602, but that does not sound right, does it? So I have to remember that I have a decimal. Don't forget, and this one is out of a hundredths place because there's 2 digits behind the hundredths place. So we're going to move that decimal in 1, 2 places. So it makes a lot more sense that my answer is $86.02 for sandwiches. So I'm just going to write S next to it for sandwiches so I remember. Now let's do the brownies. So $1.13 times 38 brownies that she bought. So if I'm first thinking 3 times 8 is 24, carry my 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 more is 10, carry my 1. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Moving on to my tens place, crossing off any regrouping. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 1 again is 3. If I add them up, I get 4 plus nothing is 4, 9, 12, 4. So $42, don't forget your decimal, and 94 cents she spent on brownies. So if I look back, B for brownies, if I look back, the question says, how much did Joelle's mom spend in all? Which means we're going to now have to combine these two together. So $86.02 plus $42.94. to get a final total of $128.96. Did your answer match mine? I hope so. Nice job if it did. Question 4 says, what is the product of 245 and 28? Well, that word product means a special type of operation. Do you remember what the operation is? Is it add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Well, if you said it's multiplication, you're totally right. The product means to multiply 2 numbers. So I'm going to take 245 and multiply by 28. If you haven't done this so far, see if you can go ahead and try it on your own. Check back in with me when you're finished. Welcome back, gang. 245 times 28 is going to be multiplied as follows. Do this along with me and check your work. 8 times 5 is 40, carry my 4. 4 times 8 is 32. Plus 4 is 36. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 3 more is 19. So 1,960 is my first partial product. I can cross off my regrouping and cross off my ones place because I'm moving to the tens place, which means I have to drop down a 0 as a place marker. 2 times 5 is 10, carry my 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. And 2 times 2 is 4. So I have my second partial product. Now if I add them up, I get 0, 6, 18, carry my 1, 4, 5, 6. So I get 6,860 for my product, because remember, product means to multiply. Question 5 says very similar things to question 4. It says, what's the product of 23 and 9/10 and 14? Well, we just learned that the product means what? Multiplication. That's right. It means to multiply. So I'm going to take 23 and 9/10 and multiply it by 14. Again, if you haven't done this so far, see if you can pause the video here, try it on your own, and then play it when you're ready to check your work. Welcome back if you ended up pausing. Thinking about the product, we are going to multiply these numbers together and see how we did. And then there's a special way they want us to write our answer. So I'm going to take 4 times 9 and multiply it to get 36. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 more is 15, carry my 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So that's my first partial product. Let's move to our ones place, cross off any regrouping, and add my 0 as a place marker. 1 times 9 is 9, 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. If I add them all up correctly, 6 plus 0 is 6, 9 plus 5 is 14, carry my 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 3 is 14, and 1 plus 1 is, or 2 plus 1 is 3. So I get 34 and 46. However, I have to think about, do I have a decimal in this problem? And if you remembered this, nice job. If you forgot, think about what this means. So I multiply by the tens place, so that means I have to bring it down and move it in one space to represent the tens place. So my final answer is 344 and 6/10. But this time it asked my answer to be in word form. So let's see if we can use words to explain our answer. So first I'm thinking about 34, or 3, why do I keep saying 34? I don't know why. So if I'm thinking about 344, think about those words. So I'm going to write 3, too many E's, 144, and now think, how would I represent that decimal as a word? The word and, 6/10. Hopefully that's how you wrote it in word form as well. Nice job if you did, super job. All right, we have 2 problems to go. The next problem, number 6, it says to solve the expression. Well, I see brackets and braces and a bunch of different operations, so you know what that means. Order of operations. So I'm going to remind you, in class we learned about the order of operations, which is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where we started with parentheses first and then went to exponents if there was any, multiplication or division, whichever comes first, and then addition and subtraction. So let's break this question apart. If you want to try this one on your own, feel free, and then pause the video, and when you're ready, play it and check back in with me. First, I'm going to think about parentheses. Well, I see 2 sets. Not only do I see braces, which are right here, or excuse me, brackets, I also see parentheses. So there's kind of 2 pieces of that. I always tell my students to work their way inside out. So we're going to start with what's very much inside, which is 9 plus 7. 9 plus 7 is 16. Now, since I've done that, I'm going to rewrite everything else that I didn't use, including those brackets. So I didn't use the 3, I didn't use the times, I didn't use the bracket, and I didn't use the divide by 2. So now let's look. I still have parentheses there because they're a grouping symbol. Those brackets represent grouping symbols. So I'm going to divide 16 divided by 2, and I'm going to get 8. So now the last piece I need to do is to multiply. So I've done parentheses, there's no exponents. Now there's multiplication. So I'm going to do that now. 3 times 8 gives me a final answer of 24. Nicely done if you got the same answer I did. All right, the very last problem that you're going to see, very similar to tomorrow's quiz, is number 7. It says Rosie makes bracelets to sell. Each bracelet requires 2 5/10 yards of yarn. At the craft store, yarn is sold by the foot. If Rosie wants to make 74 bracelets, how many feet of yarn must she buy? Well, the first thing I want to represent is knowing that this is yards and they want by feet. So I really have to convert 2 5/10 yards to feet. So if I'm thinking of yards or feet, which one is bigger, a yard or a foot? If you said yard, you're correct. So we're going from a big unit of measure to a small. When we go big to small, do you remember what the operation is? Big to small, we multiply. Multiplication is the correct answer. So I'm going to take 2 5/10 yards, and I'm going to multiply it by how many feet in a yard. Do you know this one without checking your conversion chart? If you do, you're right. It's going to be 3 feet in a yard. So let's multiply 2 5/10 times 3. So 3 times 5 is 15. Carry my 1. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So I also have to remember that I have a decimal in this problem, 2 and 5/10. So I'm going to bring down my decimal and say that there's 1 digit behind to represent. However, 7 and 5/10 is not my answer because that's saying how much each bracelet will make. And this is in feet. So each bracelet takes 7 and 5/10 feet. So they said, if Rosie wants to make 74 bracelets, how many feet should she buy? So we have to do one more step, which is to multiply 74 bracelets times 7 and 5/10. Let's see if you can do that by yourself. Pause the video and then come back when you're totally finished. All right, welcome back. Let's multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry my 2. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 more is 37. Now I'm moving over to my tens place, so I'm going to cross off my first digit and write down a 0, moving over to the next place, which is the 7. 7 times 4 is 16. Oh, no, not 16. 7 times 4 is 28. I don't know where I was thinking 16. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 2 more is 51. Now, if I add these partial products together, I get 0. 8 plus 7 is 15, carry my 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and nothing plus 5 is 5. Remember, we have a decimal in this problem, so where would your decimal be? If you said right between the 5 and the 0, you are correct. So the correct answer for this is 555 feet of yarn. Really nice job, guys. Tomorrow, work really hard on your quiz, and hopefully this video helped you out remembering some of the skills we've taught so far in this module.